All right, here we go. We are live, I think, with Rosie from Microsoft. Hey, welcome, Rosie, and to the handful of people on my stream. Uh, we are dealing with some technical kind of challenges today, so just kind of calling out a potential flag right now that we'll see how this goes. If we have to cut this short, we'll reschedule and we'll find this another good day for everyone. But we are here about an amazing new feature inside of the Power BI service, and we have the one, the only, the lady with the crown, the lady who brought all the heat and who's bringing us to Flavor Town. We have Rosie from Microsoft, who's the PM on the new on object visual. Welcome to the show, Rosie. How are you doing?
Great. Thanks. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's fantastic to have you here. For a little bit of background, can you tell everyone a little bit more about yourself? What you do at Microsoft? You know, your background.
Sure. I'm a senior product manager on the Power BI team, focused on creators and helping them onboard and building features such as on object to help sort of those new creators get into the new world of Power BI.
Oh, that is fantastic. How long have you been with Microsoft?
A little over 6 years now, and on the Power BI team, about 3 years. So,
Get
yeah,
out.
a little half and half.
So did you join before or after the COVID like lockdown and stuff?
Oh yeah, so I joined the Power BI team over from the Bing team actually
Okay.
2 days in to the pandemic. So I had 2 days in the office. I was very excited about decorating my office, and then they said everyone works from home now. So it kind of felt like going back to the office, intermittently after we were allowed to go back. Felt a bit like a bomb shelter. Like it was as if everything was like, everyone left it where it was and my boxes were still packed from like 2 years ago, so it was very surreal.
Well, so you're back in, or what's your cadence in the office?
Yeah, so I think our team tries to find at least 2 days a week that we all try to go in because that's the best is when everyone's there. I'm kind of half and half now of working from home, like I am today, and going into the office.
Well, that's incredible. So, now we have a lot to get into. Before we dive into this, though, this is our lunch and learn. So everyone here on the stream, I'm sure, is taking a little break from their work to join us. So let's all grab a beverage and let's take our little customary sip to get us up and running before we kick things off. So, all right, let's head on over. Rosie, Rosie has actually like official uh, like presentation stuff here, yeah?
Yes, yeah. I have a walkthrough deck, so we can walk through some of the bigger changes with on object, and then I'll hop over to Power BI so I can actually show you sort of a summary of all the things we walked through in a live demo, and then we'll open it up for questions. And of course, I think Chris, you said you were going to ask questions throughout this, so feel free.
That is exactly right. And for all of you on the live stream, a little Q colon, is the standard fare now. Q colon, then your question, and we will I'll bubble that to the surface for Rosie to answer. All right, awesome. And before we get into this, I do want to like ask you one like kind of prep question, right? Like, what was the thought or the motivation behind why we created this new on object visualization changes versus, hey, I've got my visual, I've got all my stuff in one place. Why the shift, right? Like when I first started it with it, I had a huge who moved my cheese moment where like it just wasn't there. And I will admit, my first run through, I just did a video yesterday on it. Uh, I was kind of lucky my sound was garbage. I had to re-record it 4 times because I screwed up sound. First time through, it was not great. I had problems. Second time
Mhm.
through, it got better. Third time through, it was it was even better still. And the fourth time through, I actually started to like a lot of the things I was doing. So can you tell me why we're making this big change and forcing people to go through that journey?
Yeah, so Power BI as a whole is trying to align a little bit more to the Office model. So, when you're coming from other Office products, it's natural to want to be able to click on the thing and make changes. And so that's part of our strategy is making Power BI a little bit more Office-like and more intuitive for folks
Mm,
that are coming over from the Office world. And yeah, like we want to be one kind of Microsoft family. So that is why we're kind of moving toward more of an on-object model. But we're not getting rid of the panes, of course. That's still available. It's just we're trying to move more things toward where your mouse already is when you're working with the
mm.
visual. So,
Okay, awesome. Great. Let's head on into it then.
all right, great. So just again, I'm Rosie. I'm a product manager on the Power BI team focused on growth and the creator persona. And so giving you a little bit more background on sort of the problems we were trying to solve with
Mm,
on object. These are not verbatims. These are kind of just, summaries of the sort of sentiments we've heard when addressing these problems. So, I spend too much time trying to format my report. I want to right click directly on the visual. We see a ton of new users coming to the product and they just, right click everywhere and they expect, that same sort of experience that they have in other editing tools. I'm not sure which visual type is best. So again, when you're first starting out, you may be dragging fields just to see some reaction on the page, but you're not quite sure which visual is best for the data you're working with. And then once you get into sort of, working across the desktop, you'll notice that the panes start to take up a lot of canvas space, and it starts shrinking the actual working canvas that you're using. So that was another big pain point we wanted to address.
mm,
Which bucket do I actually drag a field to? So this kind of goes back to what visual type is best. Like now you see all these field wells and you're like, I don't know, let me try this. Let's see what it produces. It's a lot of guess and check. And then end user exploration. So this is for not the creators exactly, but these are kind of the end users that want to do a little bit more than just play around with cross filtering or hovering on a visual. They want to get into a little bit more tweaking. Our current personalized experience, we've heard is clunky and cumbersome and has a bunch of clicks. So we wanted to actually bring some of these experiences together. So to that point, if you're not familiar with it, what you see on the left here is our current personalized experience, and this is what we offer for end users that do want to do a little bit more. And so right now it's pretty limited. There's no full screen exploration. It's just local to that visual, and we don't even offer any formatting in this experience. But what you see on the right-hand side is our full creation experience, right? And there's not really a good ramp between these two. So that was another thing that we wanted to address is like, if you're in the exploration world, how do we then help you get over to the creation space and it not be so jarring and different? So that
mm.
was another problem space we were trying to address as well. So this is Chris's original question of, where did this idea come from? Where were we inspired from? So just to review, this is sort of the anatomy of PowerPoint, for example, and I'll just walk through some of the main pieces of their UI. So up at the top is the ribbon, and this is typically used for like bulk actions, some of the most used settings across whatever you're working with. So if you're working with a visual, if you're working with a shape, most of these settings at the top stay static or consistent. And then they have this thing over all the way on the right called a pane switcher, which allows you to work with one pane at a time. So this, increases the real estate of the canvas, and it helps you focus on your current task at hand. So if you're working with animation, that is the one pane that you'll see over in the pane switcher.
So you're
And of course,
saying I don't
yeah.
need to invest in a 50-inch monitor so that I can have continual number of panes open at one time where I'm going to be able to use this type of an organization?
Yes, exactly. So,
Okay.
Office has this pane switcher that allows you to have multiple panes open at once, but you're not stacking them like we're doing currently in Power BI. So yes, no need to invest in an extra wide monitor just to use our product. That would be a pretty funny on ramp. um, the next bit here is the format pane. So Office, of course, has their own version of this where they kind of store all of the advanced settings. If you're not finding it elsewhere, this is the place to go. And then lastly, what they call on object buttons. And so this allows you to do modifications to the visual level. And you can also individually click on various parts of a visual and start doing more granular edits. So remembering this anatomy diagram here, we want to bring the
Oh,
same thing.
hang on. Go
Yes.
back. I have questions.
Go ahead.
I have questions here. Go back. So when I'm looking at this, I love this, right? Like it's PowerPoint, it's Excel.
Yeah.
We have the same stuff here. I have a ton of features that I really like inside the yellow bar, that format pane that you have there. Am I going to
Mhm.
start to see all of these features bleed into Power BI? If not today, maybe tomorrow.
Yes. Are you asking like some of the features that we're missing that are in Office's format pane that aren't in ours? I'm just clarifying your question.
Right. Like, so if I wanted to do a gradient fill, or I wanted to swap something in with an image or a picture, right? Like, how accessible or how similar is this going to be?
Yeah, so actually, my colleague Miguel, which I'm sure the community is very aware of, Miguel Myers is working on revamping our visuals for kind of giving more formatting options. And in that space, he's evaluating what are these additional gaps that we need to fill. And so we work very closely together on, what are the new things he plans to add in the format pane, and which of those things do we want to pull into other experiences like on object or eventually the ribbon? Yeah, I can't really speak to his backlog of like how many of those settings are coming soon and which ones he's shipping. But we are working very closely, and there is a ton of investment on bringing more settings and filling those gaps.
Miguel was sitting in your chair about a month ago, and we saw a ton of things. In fact, someone told me if you slow down, he flipped through a Figma board that was very, very exciting on my videos. So I'm super excited to see what he's doing as well. And I guess I was hopefully teeing that up for that here. So awesome.
Yes.
Okay, keep going.
Okay, great. So just remembering this anatomy picture here, we want to bring that same experience to Power BI. So the ribbon work will be our next big bet and our big project. But yes, we already currently have the format pane, which is the yellow bar here. And we brought the pane switcher as part of OnObject to have the same sort of idea of one pane at a time and help you increase Canvas real estate and focus on your task at hand. We've also brought the on object buttons, and what's not shown here is all of the subselection on object formatting, which we'll get into in just a bit.
Hey, Rosie, a question on this. I like the one pane at a time for saving real estate. Any ability to pin so we can still see both panes?
Yes, so you can just right click on any of the panes and choose open in new pane. So that'll still give you the ability to stack them side by side if you prefer. But yeah, so it's still available to you. One of the bits of feedback we got was how do we keep that always if that's your preference? So we are working on ways to maybe store that as a preference setting across your reports. But for now, we do have the option. It's just a little bit hidden in the right click. But
I didn't find it, so that fantastic, great.
okay, yes, I think I have an image of it in here as well. So
Okay,
we can,
cool.
pause on that. Yeah. All right. So introducing on object. It's a new way to build and format directly on the visual. It helps bridge that divide between personalized and the full creation experience. And then, of course, we want to make Power BI more Office-like and intuitive. So we're using Office-like here because we're not fully, we're picking and choosing the things that we think are applicable and make sense for Power BI. So that was why we use that buzzword there. All right. So this is the sort of list of changes I'll walk through. I usually pause in the middle for Q&A, but Chris, feel free to interrupt me as I'm going through it. And then, we'll end with the demo to kind of summarize what's in this list, and then open it up for more questions.
Fantastic. Let's dig into this because I know a lot of people have not yet downloaded Power BI. I mean, I knew it through me. It was like 700 megs, so significantly larger download. So it seemed like it took longer to get it actually installed and ready than I'm accustomed to. So it was just kind of a process this time versus it just being as seamless as it has been in the past. So let's check it out.
All right. So the first big change is you'll notice we've gotten rid of the visualizations pane. That is by design. We are moving it toward being on the visual itself instead. To create a visual now, you have an additional third option. So you can, of course, drag from the data pane, previously the fields list. You can right-click on the canvas anywhere and use our new option to add a visual. And then we moved the visualizations like gallery to the top into the ribbon. And one of the things we are planning to change here is this will insert a new visual of that visual type. We've heard a bit of feedback on, I was expecting it to also help me change the current visual that I'm working with. So we are working on updating that behavior to kind of be a bit dual purpose, but we did introduce a third option of how you can add a visual to the canvas.
I'll say I really like what you have. Well, you're gonna get to it. But I like that it's the drop down right on the visual. I'm not going to something else to change it. I'm a big fan of that. That's awesome. Hey, there's a question from Anthony. He wants to know.
Yep.
Is there a reason for having the drop down option to collapse or close a pane when there's a close option already? Why not just have two icons, collapse or close?
So I think, again, kind of inspired by PowerPoint's pane switcher, they have an option, like a menu in the chevron menu that lets you collapse or close. It is a bit redundant, but we are kind of trying to move toward the same model there eventually. And I know the community is very excited to be able to detach it and move it in the same way that Office has. So we're trying to get there. These are our stepping stones.
All right, fair enough. We're here to go on the journey with you.
Perfect. Yes. And of course, the feedback is really valuable as we're making these changes, right? So, alluding to the where did the visualizations pane go? So we moved it to the visual itself. So one of the new things we added here is this suggest a type mode or auto mode. So as you add fields to a visual, it will dynamically update the visual type based on what Power BI thinks is the best visual type for your data. We also have this new add button here where instead of having to go all the way over to the data pane and drag a field, you can simply just click on that add data button, and it basically gives you this flyout of the data pane, and you can add it where your mouse already is.
I like this. I will say it would be nice if it kept where it was in the scroll, because you scroll down to a fact table, add in a measure, the select data pane disappears, and then you have to reopen it and then scroll right back down to it. But that's just a me. So this is fantastic, though.
Yeah, we are working on better improvements there, also helping you filter the lists a little bit more. All feedback is welcome on how we can improve this experience. So,
what's the best mechanism for people to send you feedback? Is it just rage tweeting on Twitter? Is that the best connection point?
Preferably not. I mean, we do have a forum that is, if you go to the preview switch where you have this turned on, there's a share feedback button there.
Oh,
So there's a community forum that we have that I check every morning with the team. So that's probably the best place to go because it'll get to the team quickest. But yeah, I mean, other social media, like we're also checking if you don't have a community account to send that feedback. But yes, the forum I'd say is the best way.
so you heard it here first, folks. Rosie checks this every morning. Every morning, her team reviews this stuff. So send in those ideas or suggestions today, and she'll be reviewing them tomorrow. Fantastic.
Yes. So this is just elaborating a little bit more on what this build menu allows you to do. So now you can also click on a field you've already added to a visual and quickly swap it out. So that's the little arrow on the side there. And you can right click on a field and still be able to change the aggregation. This one's another one that, previously we had a little caret that showed you have a right click option. We've heard a ton of feedback that, this only being on right click is a bit hard to find. So we are improving this as well, and you'll see that in the next 2 months. And then in the May release, hopefully, we'll be improving this discovery.
Fantastic. What I also heard is you're going to continue to refine this and make changes to this. This isn't an MVP deployment in which, like, hey, this is it, and bite it. If you don't like it, this you're going to change it and improve this as we go, right?
Absolutely, that's the nature
Awesome.
of a preview.
Awesome.
So right now, you have to opt in. You have to go find the preview switch and turn it on, and that is by design because we realize these are huge changes. We can't just push them on you. And of course, because we have your generosity of turning it on and trying it out and giving us feedback while we're in that preview state, this is the best time to help us shape this product. Yeah, that is why we do it this way, so that we can hear your feedback and start to make these changes before the rest of the world sees them and has this by default for their experience.
Fantastic.
So this is just elaborating on what that suggestion toggle does. If you turn it off, then you'll get the experience you have today where you can see all the field wells. And we also provide a user preference setting for those folks that really just want this view, right? They prefer to have all of the gallery open. They want to see all the field wells always. So we did add a few options for you to just configure this menu. You can turn that suggestion toggle off, or you can have the visualizations gallery pinned open if you prefer.
Oh, this is great. I didn't realize that this was also there. This is fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to jump over to sort of the formatting space next. So the other button that we've added on Object is our Add button. And so this actually takes the top level toggles you see in the format pane and brings it to on the visual. So now from this menu, I can quickly add, different chart elements such as a marker or a trend line. And so, yeah, all without opening the format pane.
So this is great. One of the things that I encountered as I was working with this, it looked like I was starting to highlight objects that I could, like, if I was in PowerPoint or if I was in Excel, I could actually type in and change the name of the title or something like that. That did not seem like that's a function today. Is that something that I can expect tomorrow?
Oh, that is a function we have. So let me hop over to that in just a bit, and we can chat about it. So this is before you even get into what we call format mode. You can still use this menu, but we had to introduce this new concept of format mode, basically because we already had existing hover and click behavior. So As you're familiar with, when you hover, you'll see tooltips. When you click, you'll see the cross filter, cross highlight behavior. We didn't want to conflict with that, so we had to introduce this new mode called format mode, which you can get into by either double clicking on the visual, and you'll see sort of the bounding box turns blue, the handle shape changes from circle to square. It's a little subtle. Or you can right click and choose format. But then once you do that, when you hover and click around on the visual, you will now see these subselection regions. So this is just like the Office world, where you can click directly on a piece of the chart and start to see options of what you can change. So this is just showing a little bit more of what that looks like. So you can right click directly on an axis and then change the font style, or using this format option here, you can also hop directly to that section within the format pane. So even if you don't know what that thing is called that you're clicking on, we'll take you directly to where that setting belongs in the format pane.
Oh, that's wonderful. This alone is worth having this enabled on right now. I wasn't doing that when I was playing with it. This is great. Wow. Okay. Oh, awesome. Fantastic. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You can keep going.
Okay. Sure. So this is just also showing off one of the sort of edge cases that you might run into, but a lot of folks are working with a lot of data, so it might happen more often than you think. When you're trying to click on something that is overlapping, we attempt to figure out, by proximity, what are you actually trying to format? If we didn't get it right, you have this sort of drop-down disambiguation menu where you can tell us what you're actually trying to click on, and then you'll get the according settings for that selection instead. So just another sort of maybe less obvious feature that I wanted to highlight.
Oh, that's great. Any thought or talk about? I know Tableau has a feature. It's like jitterbug or something like that, where when things are too close together, it slightly shifts them apart so that you can actually see the difference. Is that coming in Miguel's work, or would that be something that your team would work on?
I haven't heard any murmurs about that on our end, but
okay.
Yeah, so I can't really speak directly to it, but yeah, I could definitely follow up on that one.
All right, awesome. I mean, this is fantastic. I'm glad that if I'm doing visual interactions, I have the ability to be very specific as to what I'm selecting on. It'd be great though, visually wise, if we could just have some way to really differentiate them. But this is wonderful.
Awesome. So then this is my favorite aspect of this feature, and you already alluded to it, is the ability to double click directly on formatable text, such as the title or an axis title, and start typing in your new text. So pretty much anywhere that you're able to kind of modify the label, we've now added this direct text editing.
How sure are you that's in the latest build? Or the build that went out?
I'm pretty sure it is, but we can try it in the demo.
Okay, all right,
because I have that built. But yes,
so I'm like, I tried that yesterday and I could not get that to work. But okay, I let's see.
yes, for sure. If there's a bug, there's probably a bug. Definitely let us know, and we'll get right on it.
Okay.
Because this is definitely one of my favorite aspects of the feature.
Hey,
so
did you see? Hang on, go back.
Yep.
You can now. Oh, this. Okay, you're highlighting something in this visual, but there's a new option where you can turn on an underline on your title, and you can put in a subtitle. So you can have a title, a subtitle with a line that separates out on your visual. I just found that out today. That's in Power BI. That's incredible.
Yeah, and we're working on also making that editable in the same way. So that's that's actually seeing the partnership between Miguel and I on these features. So,
fantastic! I'm glad you're going into the office. Clearly, the collaboration is paying off in spades.
All right, so I have this checkpoint here, but we can kind of fly past it if there's no questions, and I can continue.
Yeah, let's keep going then.
All right. The pane switcher, of course, this allows you to have multiple panes open at once. And it sort of stacks them on the right rail here. If you happen to accidentally close a pane that you were using, you can bring it back by using the ribbon view options. And choosing the pane from there. And then this bottom image here is what you were asking about earlier, Chris. How do you open them side by side if you prefer? You can right click on the pane and choose to open in new pane.
Oh, that's fantastic. Fantastic.
So this, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, this is great. It's great, and everyone's commenting in the chat that I was wrong, that you can't actually do this, and I was like, you know what? I just tried it, and it works. You're right. It does. Make culpa, make culpa. This is awesome. This is fantastic. I'm getting more and more excited about this feature the more I work with it. So, for those of you haters out there, I've seen you rage tweeting, and I've seen you on LinkedIn, and I've seen the messages come in like, why are you promoting this? No, you're wrong. This is a great feature. All right, clip that one. All right.
All right. So yeah, this one's pretty big, that I want to make sure we mention it because I also have seen a few comments on the forum on this. So when we moved the visualizations pane to the visual, there were a couple of things that were already in the visualizations pane that we needed to find a new home for. Setting up your drill through and tooltip pages was one of them. So we actually moved them to our page settings, which I think is a little bit more logical, and we did do a few user testing on this to make sure that this made sense. So if you're having trouble finding where did these move to, it's actually part of formatting your page. You can now choose the page type. Are you working with a standard page or a tooltip or drill through?
Well, it's good to know. I literally just trained a whole group of people on this other pattern, but I will send out updates today. Fantastic.
Yeah, the mechanism shouldn't be different. It's just where it's located. So hopefully it's not too much of a change from your training, Chris.
Nah, easy enough. One slide right here.
Yes. And then the other thing that we needed to find a new home for was sort of the analytics pivot from the old visualizations pane. This one we also did a few rounds of user studies on, just trying to understand what do folks think of when they look at analytics and they look at formatting. Do they have a clear delineation, or does it just make sense to kind of merge these two? And ultimately, we decided to merge them, mostly for that option in the add menu where you can add markers, or you can add series labels. In that same menu, you can also add analytics lines. So that's what we were trying to kind of converge on by putting them together. So that was sort of the method to the madness.
I like this. This is fantastic. Honestly, it was just there. I didn't even think about it being gone, but you're right. It was introduced there, so I've always known it to be there, so that made sense to me. But then when I switched over, I didn't even realize that you shifted it, and I was using it literally in the demo I did. So this is fantastic.
Okay, great. That's good to
seamless.
know.
It was a move to be more convenient, like the way my wife rearranged the silverware to have the forks right in front instead of where I put them. And this is much better. I didn't even realize you changed it. This is good. Good.
Awesome. Yes. So we are keeping an ear out if folks have strong opinions about these changes, of course. But this one was a big one that I wanted to make sure we highlighted.
This is great.
All right. So we can flip over to the demo. And I'm just going to quickly show off what all was just shown in the slides. So if I want to add a visual to this blank page, I'm going to do it through the new way of right-clicking on the canvas and choosing Add a Visual. And then I'm going to use the new Add Data button to start adding data to this visual. And as you...
hang on. Right there.
Yes.
Right there you have a world of improvement. It's a card. It's not a column chart. Like, thank you very much. This alone is worth the feature. Oh, sorry. Continue on. Keep going.
No worries. Thank you for highlighting that, because as I add data, you'll notice that it does update depending on what I'm working with. So, I started with a card and then it changed to a bar chart for me, and now it changed to this line chart because I have added date to it. That's sort of the beauty of this auto mode, where you're not, bogged down with, well, what visual type is best for what I'm working with. We kind of help you along as you're adding data. So from here, if I wanted to change it, I could just choose one of these here, or I could turn this off, and then I can quickly see where did those fields get placed. So again, not knowing which bucket to drag to, you can now start to learn, what makes up this visual. So I'm going to flip over now to using our add menu here. So I want to add, a couple things like series label, or, the trend line, maybe even some markers. Just want to double check. Is this too small on your screen, Chris? Should I make it a tiny bit bigger?
No, here, I'll make it bigger. You're good. You're fine.
Okay. Alrighty. So now that, I've added the things that I wanted to my visual, I'll just quickly show you guys, again, what happens when I hover. I'll see the tooltip. When I click around, I'm doing the cross filter, cross highlight, so we didn't get rid of that behavior. But if I now want to do more with the formatting, I can either double click, or I can choose right click and format. And you'll notice the format pane pops open, and then the container now changes. So when I hover, you'll see that the behavior changes to show me what I can actually click on and modify.
So when you click on it, does the format pane expand?
Yes. So as I'm clicking around, you can kind of use them in tandem. It'll take you to the exact section of the selection that you're working with. Yeah.
So no more hunting and pecking, and is it under standards in the whatever general or whatever they called it? It's just right here.
Yes, exactly.
Can you easily access the size? So if I have multiple visuals selected, I can easily access the size of the visual itself?
Yeah, so we are working a bit more on the multi-select. So we haven't changed anything that you can do today, of course, through the pane. But bringing it to on object, we're still in progress on the multi-select scenarios. But
fair enough.
We'll get there. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
But yeah, from here, I can just simply right-click on this, and without even going over to the right, I can make changes here and change the size of both of my axis titles. And then if I want to change the line color, I can click directly on that. Maybe I want to make that orange. So, I'm doing this all without ever even going over here and knowing what the thing that I'm clicking on is called. So, yeah, it's definitely a time saver. And then, of course, my favorite feature, double click on the title, change it, and I can also just make that also a bit bigger because it's the title. And maybe make it stand out a bit more.
This is great. And for the little year, you have to double click on it, and a big text, like a big box comes up, right? Like double click on year to go to that edit mode.
Oh, this one?
Yeah, you have to double click, right?
Oh, yeah.
There, yes, this. Oh, ha. Fantastic. Okay, I'm sorry. Keep going. You're doing great. I'm
Yeah, I mean, that was pretty much a summary of what I showed you outside of the changes to the format pane for drill through tooltips and analytics. But yeah, that was about it for the demo. So happy to flip back over to the slides just really quick to give you guys a preview of what's coming next, or what the things that we're working on that we've heard a lot of feedback on, and I just want to also highlight. So of course, we've heard hey, can I just attach that build button back to the pane switcher? So we are looking at how to allow for that. There's a bit of complexity with, how does that work with the new ribbon? And, if that is your preference, just working out some more of the kinks to get that back over there to you. So we are looking at that. The second option here is the replacing the personalized experience. So we want to bring this to the service as well. And so this is the one hang up for us, is making sure we can replace personalize and that feels seamless. The third bullet is actually around the visual header. So now that we introduced these two new on-object buttons on the side of the visual, now we have sort of these three menu systems, right? Like the visual header, the on-object buttons, and all of the right-click menus. So we're trying to find a way to reduce that back down to two menu systems, as in having on-object buttons and having right-click menus. So we want to look at bringing the drill down affordance and filtering to on-object as well. The fourth bullet here around teaching users about these changes. We don't want to dump people directly into this. We want to give them a little bit more guided teaching when this does become the default on experience. So we are looking at that as well. And then the biggest limitation, what you'll find with March, is that we don't support all visuals yet. So we are working our way down, looking at sort of the highest used visuals. So right now we support most of the Cartesians, but we want to do table next, of course, and eventually support all of the core visuals. So we are working our way through that within the preview. And then bringing that pane switcher experience to more places, such as on the mobile view when you're in editing on mobile, the service, and embedded. And then all of the accessibility support for this new feature. We've been sort of chipping away at that as well.
Well, that's fantastic. So there's been a lot of chatter and a lot of feedback. A lot of people I've seen a lot of good comments, but we've kind of talked. There's been some negative comments out there. I'm going to challenge you here. What's one of the negative comments that you've thought, you know what? Yeah, that was a miss on our part. We need to get in there and fix it. But and then two-parter. What's one that you're like, I think you look at this wrong. We should really think about it on like this, right? Because I've had feedback and I've said, hey, I don't like this, and I like being wrong in those situations so I can learn how to be right. So, what's a valid criticism, I guess, and what do you think is potentially not a valid criticism?
Yeah, so when we moved the build menu to the visual, of course, the size shrunk from what it used to be. So a lot of the negative criticism we've heard is like, oh, I have to scroll now, or I can't see all of my field names because they're super long and I can't resize this menu. So that is 100% fair. We did not intend to make your lives harder by doing this. Of course, we try to bring it to the visual where you're already working. But we are looking at how we can allow for resizing, or in the case of this first option where you can attach it back, then you'll get all the resizing options that you have today. So I think that's very fair negative feedback that we should address very soon.
Any opportunity for perspectives there, to be able to leverage perspectives? I could just say, hey, I want to see this perspective for this authoring experience.
Yeah, actually, I think we had a bug on that. If it's not working as expected, we have to make sure that works as it did before. So yeah,
I don't think you could toggle that field well to a perspective. That's never been an option. But if we have a more limited space, it would be great to, because I don't think anyone is using perspectives as much as we could be, and I think that's a huge feature that we should leverage, because this experience would be great, or could potentially be great with that perspective. Like, hey, I want to be this persona. I'm in this mode, so I see these 5 tables and I see these 20 things, right? That might be helpful, right?
Yep.
Tossing that out there. Probably easier for you to work in a resizing thing. I know, but perspectives have got no love, and there's nobody talking about them, so I'm going to talk about it.
Okay. Very fair. Very fair.
All right, and then the other question:
Yeah.
what's a criticism where you're like, I think you're off base on it, and it could be one of my criticisms.
I mean, I think just the pane switcher has been like overwhelmingly positive in most cases, but of course, not being able to find that, hey, I want to open this side by side option. I don't know if there's a ton of scenarios where you have all of the panes open at once. So I think, folks that are maybe working on two panes at once, totally valid. But I really think you should give it a shot on, really using the pane switcher as intended, so that you get more of the canvas space back. Any of the negative feedback around, oh, I just want it to stack as before, I'm kind of, pushing back as, give the pane switcher a shot if there is a case that you do need to open because, you need selection pane, bookmarks open at the same time. Yeah, that makes sense. But I don't think we want to go back to the world where you have 6 open at the same time and the canvas is super, super small.
So I don't like that, but I do like to have my what fields I'm selecting, what fields are going into what places next to all my fields. So if I'm adding a lot of I think that makes sense. I'm gonna have to play with it because it doesn't seem to work the way you were saying. Could you show us how you actually get the field well and the values up at the same time?
Yeah, so you mean like this, like
What the
opening
heck?
side by side. So you want to click on the one that isn't currently selected. It does feel a little weird.
There you go.
So if I have bookmarks open, I can open the non-selected panes in a new pane.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. So I could have all these just open, just not pinned. I got it. Oh, well, where do I put? How do I get the field well though?
Which one? Oh, you meant the build menu. This guy.
Yeah, the build menu.
Yeah, so we're working on
Oh, okay. That's
bringing it back. Yeah, that was
okay.
the first
I got
bullet
you.
on that one. Yep.
Okay. All right. I'm bad with names of everything, so
yeah, no worries.
I gotcha. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So anyway, where are we?
Well, actually, so that actually makes sense, though. We'll go back. I think you have in your hey, I want to push back on the menus. I think there's two sides to that. Number one, it's yes, you should have the build menu should be able to be there so you can do that toggling. But we should still get in this mode of using this toggle functionality when we're doing our work. So that I could easily defend that as get behind that. So okay, that's makes perfect sense. Good. All right, we can keep going. Sorry.
All right. So there's only I think one more slide on this one.
Okay.
It's just the timeline. So where did we start? We initially released this in a private preview to our NDA community. We had a ton of feedback there, so that's why it took us a bit to get it out to the public. And we were operating on some of that feedback. So now that we're in March, we now have it available for the public, but you have to go find the preview switch and turn it on. That's what we mean by opt-in. So yeah, right now we only support a subset of the visuals. Eventually we want to keep adding and getting support for all of the core visuals. So then that's why the remaining 2 here are TBD, because it's 100% based on your feedback and how we feel like we're addressing that and the quality of it. So I did not put a timeline on that because it's very dependent on what we're hearing. So we're trying to be listening to the community. All right.
Okay.
I think that was the end of the presentation. So I'll hand it over to you.
Okay, awesome. Well, Rosie, this really shifts the way we work and operate. And I feel like I've been saying this a lot, but we're in a who moved my cheese type situation. And so we now know it's Rosie moved our cheese. But that's okay because Rosie moved the cheese closer to you. And I'm from Wisconsin, and I just want my cheese closer to me. So that works out pretty good. But we we have to recognize, and I think we had a question in the cube about like when should people get involved in this. Jack Irby was asking this, like when should we start this? Like we know sometimes you're getting lots of feedback, and we're going to see some big changes, and so getting started too early is not necessarily a great idea because then you have to relearn everything again. I know it's only been out for a handful of days,
Yeah.
and I know you highlighted some of that stuff. Is this something that people should be starting now, especially if they're like they struggle with like all shifting all the time, or is this something they should give it a month or two? What's your take? What's your recommendation for people?
Yeah, I mean, I think for anyone who's an existing user that knows their way around the product, we value your feedback on making this change for the greater population. So we want to hear what has become more difficult, what has become easier for you. The design around this was around making it is easier for new users, but also in effort making just the product a bit more intuitive for our entire population. So I would say for new users, I wouldn't start them out on this just yet, just because we only support a subset. So they might get stuck with working with a visual we don't support, and then they're like, "Wow, there's that gap." So I think for training materials and that sort of thing, I would hold off just a bit before you start completely restructuring everything around this. But if you are familiar with the product, like that's the feedback we're looking for right now is like, how do we get this to be the new default?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think conservatively that's what I would recommend, just because I wouldn't want a new user to start to learn it this way and then immediately find the gaps because it's a preview.
Okay.
So yeah, once we get closer to supporting most of our visuals, then it will be probably safe for them to get started on this.
No, I think that's fantastic feedback. And honestly, I talk about all the time, right? We things get out. The purpose of agile development is to get features out that are not complete to get feedback to guide the rest of the development, right? So have to be very respectful for you and the entire process that there may be things that we don't like that we'll work on refactoring, and that's very fair, and we're at that stage with this functionality, so that's good. um
Yes.
uh Anthony made a point, and I actually kind of like this point when we talk about the panes. um Maybe all the panes are already icons on the side, but that the check boxes get them to stack. So like these are the ones I want to see all the time, and you hit the buttons, and or you hit the buttons if you want to swap them in and out. I don't know.
Mm.
Tossing that out there. I've not heard that one before, so Anthony, that I think that might actually have be a good idea. We'll let you do what you do with that, and research to figure out if that would actually work or not. So that's fantastic. Um, and then Sohil's asking, when is this going to be available for custom visuals? Like, can people who've authored custom visuals start using this now, or no?
Not quite yet. So we have another team that works on custom visuals. So we are going to expose an API very similar to what we did with format pane. If you optionally want to have this support, we will give some of this for free. So of course, the build menu and the add menu, those come with any visual you're working with. But when we get into the nitty gritty of like, this is the polygon of my custom visual, and I want this particular setting on it. That's where we need the custom visual developer to step in and tell us. So the API will allow you as a custom visual developer to select that region and say which type of mini toolbar do you want for that particular selection. So that'll be coming with when we move to closer to the default opt out experience, where this will be on by default, but you can turn it off.
Okay.
So we're working with our custom visuals team on making sure that the API is ready and stable for custom visuals to get in there and leverage this. But
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
it'll be a few months.
Okay. Very fair enough. I just know a lot of people who do the custom visuals try to keep everything as fresh as they can, right? So that people use their custom visuals, right? I
Yes.
So that makes fantastic sense. All right, well, we are nearing the end of the hour. Rosie, as any parting words, did you have anything else that we should be knowing about you? Are you on tour doing comedy any place? Is there any sort of features or functionalities we should be interacting with you at? What else should the users know about you?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm the PM for anything formatting these days. So yeah, if anything in that space you have feedback on, or just in general, like onboarding as a new creator, happy to hear what you have in terms of feedback. But yeah, no, comedy is not my strong suit, so I am not going on tour for that. But I have been invited for a few of these similar talks, so you might be hearing some more updates as we have them in various parts of the Power BI community. So yeah, on object, all things on object, definitely come talk to me, or share your feedback on the forum.
Oh, well, that is absolutely fantastic. So, Rosie, thank you so much for joining us today. I can't tell you how much I really appreciate you, and all of the hard work that, you showed the one slide that you showed this in September of last year, but I know you've been working on it for a year before that, right?
Yes.
So thank you for multiple years of work and effort on this project. I and clearly people in the audience really like it. We're excited to see some little tweaks and changes here or there, but this is fantastic. So thank you very much for everything that you do.
Thank you so much, and I will share that with the team. It's not just me. I'm just the
Well,
spokesperson most of the time. So I really appreciate you having me on this call.
Well, excellent, excellent. And hey, thank you guys for everyone who's tuned into this call, taking time out of your lunch to sit with me and Rosie as we go through these new features and see how this works. We learned trust in Rosie, as Adam said. So we all have to trust in Rosie. The word has come down from on high. So thank you guys so very much for joining us. If you want to support the channel, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff. Actual comments after the video apparently are big in getting replays and stuff like that. So please do leave comments. I guess I got an email saying I should be asking for more of that, so I'm going to ask for more of that. And if you want to do more, support the channel. I got these brand new black on black Power BI Data God t-shirts. Go check those out, as well as you can buy a coffee, and I'll send off some stickers for you guys. Or my wife does. My wife does all that stuff. She's amazing. Thank you, Kim, if you're watching. I don't see her in the chat, so maybe not. But I love my wife. She's great. Thank you guys so much. Have a great day. Peace.
Thank you. See ya.
Bye. Baker Tilly Digital combines strategic industry insight and advanced technical expertise to uncover and solve your digital transformation challenges. If you're interested in learning more, check out our website at bakertilly.com/digital.